Alright guys, so since I've got the welder out here and the car backed out a little bit, or the body pulled out a little bit, and I've got a few tools out here, air hose out, I just got done doing the gap on that corner there. I decided I'm going to go ahead and work this area back here. So a long time ago I melted out the lead here with some, just those little bottles of gas, little mini torch, and I am going to tack and tack and tack and tack until it's fully welded, and then go back and grind it. So get rid of the lead, basically. Now this area here, these always have a trench in them, and that's why this area is filled full of lead, and I melted it out too. But what I'm going to do is I am going to cut this flange out of here basically. Now it's level here and it's level across here, so I'm going to leave these. But I'm going to cut it on this side of that channel so I don't have to fill it so deep full of filler. But anyway, I'm going to cut a new patch panel out. It's actually going to be in two pieces. I'm going to cut this outer piece first, and then I'll cut this inner strip, and then I will weld them together, and that way I can shape it to get that slight roll to it. But anyway, I have a problem with my deck lid alignment. It gets pretty wide right here. You can almost see how tight it is here between the flanges and how wide it is here. So that is probably why it's the way the car was put together. So this could be, pulled in, but since I have to work this area anyway, I'm just going to split it up here a little bit, pull that out, and then re-weld it, and then go back and regrind it and file it. Anyway, I'm going to get started. That's a lot of filler they got smushed in there. Let's go get me a chisel. All right, so what I got here is, now that I've got it cut out and I can pretty much build my template out of poster board now to, you know, cut it out and use it for a template. But you know, I've got this part of the pinch welder right here. This is actually 2 layers, one there and one underneath, that is spot welded. Since it is lower than what this will be, it's just a little bit, I am going to leave it there. But right now I'm going to clean all this up and put on some POR 15 down in this area right here. And then this part of the pinch weld right there that you can see from the old one, I'll clean this up real nice, and I'm going to put some weld through primer on there. And then when I build my new panel, I will drill probably about 3 holes in this, and when I go to put it on there, when I go to weld it, if this is down too far, I will go in on the back side with probably a brass punch, and I will hammer that up to the bottom of the patch panel, or I'll reach in there with some long range vice grips and clamp it together, and then go ahead and plug weld it as well. So it'll have, you know, full perimeter weld, but it'll have a couple of plug welds for strength as well. But anyway, I've repaired these areas on Tri-5 several times in the past, so this is kind of just the way it goes. Now, if you've seen me using a cone burr here, it's areas that you just can't quite reach with the cutoff wheel. Now, fortunately for me, this little area, the way it is, I've got a cutoff wheel here that's worn down pretty small, because I think they're 4.5 inch normally. Anyway, so there's areas when you go to cut, I can't get into it. Like I started chopping into the back of the pan right here. So I use the very tip of that and hold it at an angle, and then I draw my line with it, and it just buries it in. Usually you can just pull it back and forth till it breaks off. So I have another bit in there that is, it's the same thickness all the way, but it's completely flat on the end. I usually use that, but the cone burr was in this, so I just went ahead and used it. So anyway, now it's time to build a template. All right. So, welding, welding, welding. Let it cool a little bit. All right, guys, I'm gonna give you a little tip here on doing metalwork on sheet metal. Not frame rail stuff, sheet metal. So, most everybody that, you know, does patch panels or makes something on sheet metal like this, everybody knows to do a tack and then a tack and then a tack. Don't sit there and try to stitch weld because you'll warp the metal. So you're put a tack out and then, you know, farthest away, just kind of do like a star pattern type of thing. When it comes to this right here where I'd melted the lead out and decided to weld this up, you know, one there, one in the middle, one back up here, one down here, one in the middle, back up there. And it didn't matter to me if it got hot and warped because it's such a tight crown right there and it's a pinch weld. So I didn't much care about it. But anyway, on this thin sheet metal, after you get done tacking all that, you know, it takes a lot of time to do tack, 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 instead of tack, 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 because it'll just heat and warp up. So the next thing would be to wait until the metal cools down and then get your grinder out. Now, a lot of guys will use a flap wheel on a grinder, and they'll go in there and they'll just start grinding away. Well, what that does is it turns the metal blue from the heat, and it will literally warp all to hell. So there was no sense in taking all the time and doing a tack and a tack and a tack, because you just pretty much did the same thing, warped it as if you just stitch welded it with that flap wheel. Those flap wheels are too much friction, too high RPM, and it just creates too much heat in sheet metal. It's for big stuff. It's for frame rail stuff. Anyway, as far as sheet metal goes, this is the way I like to do it. I use an angle grinder with a, this is a Norton Blaze. It's a 2-inch disc, and I've already cut this one down a little bit to get some more meat out of it because the outer edge is starting to get worn out. But anyway, I will go in here and I will do it this way. And this is to keep a whole lot of heat from getting into it. Did you see what I did there? I did a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit over there. So you're going to grind the same way you tack weld it. Don't grind it all the way down. Grind it about halfway, just a spot about, you know, 3/8 or so, and or 1/4 inch, I guess. But anyway, just keep continuously changing around and moving around, because if you stay in one spot and grind that whole thing, it will turn blue and it will heat the metal up and it will sink in on you, and it'll take, you know, half a gallon of body filler to fix it. And a lot of guys, it doesn't bother them to use a half a gallon of body filler. Me, on the other hand, I like to keep it as thin as I can. Sometimes you can't, but the majority of the car, you know, if I can get the least amount in there, that saves me money out of the pocket and having to waste the filler in there. And I'm not going wide open either. That's the best thing about using an air die grinder, is because you can regulate that. Sometimes you need a lot, sometimes you need just a little bit. So I like to regulate it a little bit. Just me, everybody's different. You guys get the idea. I'm going to spend about, I don't know, 15 minutes of this probably. And I use one of these old school dudes to do the hard to get to stuff. you get the idea. 5 hours.